What's going on? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world. And what we're going to talk about is how come you're selling something, right, that is very valuable, and what you're receiving for your sales is something that has a lot less value. So that's like me going to a guy and me selling him food that I know is valued at $100, right? And him giving me back $3 and me being cool with that type of setup. And this is what the majority of us are doing on a day-to-day basis. And we're going to start to get into this because this is really based on your belief system. And so one thing I understood is that to really persuade and influence people, first I have to understand what they believe. And then I have to start changing their beliefs, because I can't change your desires, but I can only change what you believe, because the reason why you're acting the way you're acting is because you've attached beliefs to your particular desires. Right? So all human beings have a certain amount of desires. They're weighted differently based on that particular individual and how they were raised and some of their experiences. Right? But their beliefs have been put into them, right, by their environment and some of the stuff that they were exposed to growing up. What's going on, Kimberly? What's going on, Demetrius? So let me tell you a really, really quick story. There's a guy in Canada. You can go YouTube this if you just Google like Canadian counterfeiter. There's a guy up in Canada, and he decided that he was going to counterfeit US dollars. So what he did was he researched what comprised a U.S. banknote, found out what kind of material they were using, what kind of ink they were using. And when he bought all of that, he went and rented a barn somewhere out in the woods of Canada. He figured out how he needed to put it together. He put together a little bit of crew, and they started printing money. And they started printing millions of dollars in a relatively short amount of time. And then he found some people in the U.S., primarily via organized crime. And he told them, hey, I'll give you the money at a 30% rate for pretty much every $1 million that he produces. They have to give him $300 million in real U.S. notes. And that was his deal. So this guy was able to go into a room, and just by doing some research on the internet, he was not part of a secret society. He was not part of a fraternity in which he was given secret knowledge. He just researched this on the internet. He was able to understand how to produce a manufacturer U.S. notes that would pass as real currency right through to merchants. And he was doing this at such a rate. Eventually, he got caught by the Canadian police. When they went to his apartment, he was sitting on $5 or $6 million. Then when they went back to the barn, right, because they probably had a search warrant or a subpoena, he had hundreds of millions of dollars just stacked up waiting to get sold to somebody else. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? What many of us are selling to people, right? What we're getting in return is something that is less valuable than what we're selling. Well, what are we selling? We're selling our time. We're selling our lifespan to somebody. And what we're getting back is something that a Canadian guy, via doing internet research, figured out he can make inside a barn in Canada. And this is what we're giving our lifespan to. So what we must believe is that our lifespan is not more important than something that can be manufactured in a room in Canada. We have to believe that to be in this type of relationship, because unlike our ancestors, we're not compelled into this relationship by force, right? Nobody is forcing us into this relationship. So we're agreeing to these contracts because of our belief systems. So the only way to stop this is to start looking at our belief systems and ask ourselves, why am I agreeing to this particular relationship? Because now I understand that what I think is valuable is really not that valuable. I posted a video of Jerome Powell, who's the chairman of the Federal Reserve. They asked him, well, how do you increase the money supply? He said, we just print money, or we create the money digitally. So they create the money digitally. So what they really do is they go into a computer and they just make more ones and more zeros on a computer ledger. Or they have a printing press and they cut on the printing press and it now prints more money. And what they've done through educating you and indoctrinating you is they created a belief system into where how you get what you desire, right, is you sell your lifespan to these different individual entities or institutions to get that money to now go get what you desire. And the only way you can change that relationship, right, is for you to stop believing that the money actually has the value that you believe it has, because it really doesn't, right? Something that a Canadian guy can figure out how to make via the internet can't be more valuable than your lifespan. So then the question you want to ask yourself is that how valuable do you believe your lifespan is? Because many of us don't believe our lifespan is more valuable than money. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? So one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about teaching what I teach is because once a person realizes that they can spend a few hours researching, okay, they can make a play in the options market. They can turn that play around and generate income for themselves. It starts to smash the belief that money is really, really valuable. And then now they start to have to find a new belief, because you want to ask yourself, how come people that are always been raised with money and they've always had wealth and they've always had opulence and they've always been comfortable financially, how come they don't value money as much as poor people? Because they've always had it. So money's not a big deal to them because they've never had to go without it. So because it's always been there in abundance, it's not a big deal to them. When you go to certain parts of the world, they'll kill you over $5. Why? Because nobody really has any money. So you got a relatively small amount of money going through a particular environment and everybody's struggling trying to get it. Right? So Bell, you're 100% right. The pursuit of money seems to be more valuable to people than their lives. You're 100% correct. But see, they've put this belief system in us. So we believe that we got to get the money to get what we desire. And then they now create the environment and the conditions to get the money. So because they make you believe, right, or they create the conditions that getting the money is hard, you now believe that money actually is more valuable because to get the money is difficult, right? But once I can show you that getting the money is relatively easy, it's really not as difficult as they told you. Now we can start hitting down on the beliefs that money is actually valuable. Money can't be valuable if I can go into the room and make it. I can't go into the room and extend your lifespan by 20 years. No doctor can do that, right? If you have a terminal disease, there's nothing that a doctor can do to extend your life by 30 years. They can give you some medications that can maybe make you add another 6 to another years, but your lifespan really is determined the day you're born. You understand me? But we can go into a room, and Powell spoke about it. We can go into a room and click a button and we can create an infinite amount of money. They can create $1 trillion by next week by just running some machines. So if that's all they have to do to create the money, how is the money valuable? And so why would you enter into an arrangement where you say, well, you know what? I'm going to give them what is most valuable that I can increase, which is my lifespan, for something that is less valuable. But the reason they keep you in this relationship is because they've created conditions to where you believe that generating money is very difficult. All right. There's a lot of steps to it. There's a lot of obstacles to generating money. And for a lot of our people, that is their biggest obstacle. So they stay stuck in this paradigm that money actually has a lot of value. If I can show you that making money really is not as difficult as they told you, it's really quite easy to generate income for yourself. Then you can start believing what I'm telling you, right? That money's not that valuable. And maybe you want to get into a different type of relationship with these institutions where you're giving them your lifespan to get money. Because for many of us, we're not getting back what we really need to be comfortable or to really fulfill our desires, but we're giving them more and more of our time. So they keep you on this hamster wheel of always chasing this false stability that you think that you're going to get by giving them more of your time. But you're really not getting back anything in return in the form of money that really allows you to be stable in any way. Why? Because if they give you stability, you're going to get off the hamster wheel. So their job is to figure out how to keep you on the hamster wheel. Your job is to figure out how to make the hamster wheel go faster because you believe that's how you're going to get more money. And you keep running on that hamster wheel until you fall flat. And then they just put somebody else on the hamster wheel and the game keeps going because you got to understand something. You're one person in opposition against the institution. All right. You can't beat them at that. So you got to really stop playing their game. So the question you want to start asking yourself, right, over this Memorial Day weekend is, why do I believe that something that these people have admitted that they can walk into a room and create, they can go into a computer and add ones and zeros to a ledger and create, if they can do that easy, why do I believe it's valuable? Then if you no longer believe it's valuable, why are you stuck into a relationship where you're giving something which is your lifespan that you can't create more of just to get money from these people? And what can you do to get around that particular scenario? And once you start thinking that way and the people around you also start thinking the same way, you're going to find that there's other ways to create income for yourself outside of the traditional relationship that you've been taught. Okay? And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I was raised in an environment where I was taught you just have to continue to give these people your time to make the money that you want. But the problem is, no matter how much time you give them, you're never going to get enough money to where you don't have to go back to those same people. So they have all the power in the relationship and you have no power. Well, I don't like that kind of relationship, so I figured I had to try to do something different. So I hope that this was valuable to you. If you know somebody that could get some value from it, I would please like it if you would share it out. This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. Hit me up in the comments and I'll talk to you later.